the bell had barely rung when the whispers started again. "There's the mute girl," someone sneered as Grace walked past. She wasn't mute, just painfully shy. Ever since transferring to Crestwood High 3 weeks ago, Grace had become the target of relentless bullying. But what no one knew was that beneath the silence, behind her wide brown eyes, a storm had been building, and today it would break. Scene 1, The Isolation. Grace Parker was the girl who sat in the back of every classroom. Always in a hoodie. Always alone. She had moved to Crestwood after her father passed away in a car crash, leaving her and her mother to start over in a new town. She hadn't spoken more than a few words to anyone at school, not because she didn't want to, but because the fear of rejection was louder than her voice. Lunchtime was the hardest. Every table seemed to have a place, a person, a friend, except hers. She ate with her head down, sketching in her notebook to escape the reality around her. That notebook was her sanctuary. Her dreams, her pain, and her strength were scribbled across those pages in ink and graphite. But even that wouldn't stay safe for long. Scene 2, The Setup. One afternoon, just before the last class of the day, Grace stayed behind to grab her things. As she stepped out into the hallway, a familiar cold wave of dread washed over her. Jason, the tall, arrogant jock, blocked her path with a smirk. Beside him stood Brittany and Savannah, the queen bees of Crestwood. "Going somewhere, artist?" Brittany taunted, snatching Grace's sketchbook from her hands. "Give it back," Grace whispered, too soft to be heard. "What was that?" Savannah mocked, leaning in. Did the little ghost girl speak? Before she could move, Jason grabbed her from behind. "Let's have some fun," he said with a cruel grin. Scene 3, The Humiliation. They dragged her into the empty art room and tied her to a chair using duct tape they'd found in the supply closet. Grace's heart pounded so loudly it drowned out their laughter. She struggled, terrified, but no one could hear her. Then, with black markers and bright highlighters, they began drawing on her face, her arms, even her clothes. Smiley faces. Words like loser, mute, freak. Her sketchbook lay open on the table, her drawings torn, her privacy invaded. When they finished, they left her there, laughing as they took pictures and slammed the door behind them. Alone in the silence, tears streamed down Grace's face. Her chest ached, not just from the fear, but from the rage rising deep within her. Scene 4, The Breaking Point. Something snapped. Grace focused her breathing. Her father had taught her how to stay calm in chaos. Slowly, she twisted her wrists against the tape, grinding them until the adhesive weakened. 1, 2, 3, the tape snapped. She stood, trembling but free. Grace looked at herself in the mirror, covered in cruel drawings, but something had changed in her eyes. They were no longer afraid. She cleaned her face, wiped her arms, then looked at the open art closet. If they wanted a show, she would give them one. Scene 5, The Comeback. The next day, Grace walked into school early. No hoodie. No looking down. She was wearing a white shirt and jeans, and on her arms were bold drawings. But this time, they were hers. She had drawn strength, fire, wings, and bold letters that read, "I speak in art. I am not silent. Watch me rise." She went straight to the hallway where the 3 bullies usually loitered and stood across from them. Jason and the girls looked up, confused. "What the?" Jason muttered, seeing her bold display. And then Grace reached into her bag and pulled out photos. Photos she had taken from the security camera in the art room, footage she had quietly requested from the guidance counselor, claiming it was for a stolen item. She tossed the pictures at their feet. "I told the principal," she said firmly. "And the counselor. And the school board." This time, her voice didn't tremble. "You messed with the wrong quiet girl." Scene 6, The Resolution. The fallout was immediate. Jason was suspended for 2 weeks. Brittany and Savannah were barred from school activities and put on probation. Their parents were called in. It was the talk of the school for days. Grace didn't smile when it was over because it wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming her voice. For the first time, students started to sit with her at lunch. Not out of pity, but out of admiration. One of them, a shy boy named Matthew, said, "Your drawings are incredible. Can you teach me?" And just like that, Grace wasn't invisible anymore. Closing message. Bullies thought her silence was weakness. But Grace Parker showed that sometimes, the quietest people hold the loudest strength. Because bravery isn't always loud. Sometimes it's in standing up once and never sitting down again.